Hey everybody, it's Chris, and I have been looking at Forge of the Artificer. I've gone over the Artificer class and its subclasses already. I wanted to go over the species in the book. There are 5 of them, and 4 of them are just updates. So these are, species that have been published before the 2024 rules, and they've updated them now for the 2024 rules. Some of them have had a number of changes, others are pretty much the same. There's also one new species. I thought I'd go over that as well. I don't think this will be an overly long video. What I really want to do is I'm going to assume that most of my audience are probably familiar, at least, with the originals, and I just want to let you know what has changed. So we're going to begin with the Changeling. So the Changeling, of course, is a species that can change their shape. And they can basically disguise themselves at will. They're kind of a cool species. I've played them before. I enjoy them. So here are the traits up on your screen. You can see they are Fey. They can be medium or small, speed of 30 feet. And you get 2 skill proficiencies. You can choose from Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Performance, or Persuasion. And then their main feature is Shapeshifter. As an action, you can shapeshift to change your appearance and your voice. You determine the specifics of the changes, including coloration, hair length, and sex. You can also adjust your height and weight and can change your size between medium and small. You can make yourself appear as a member of another playable species, though none of your game statistics change. You can't duplicate the appearance of an individual you've never seen, and you must adopt a form that has the same basic arrangement of limbs you have. This trait doesn't change your clothing and equipment. While shapeshifted with this trait, you have advantage on charisma checks, and you stay in the new form until you take an action to revert to your true form. So this is their big feature. Basically, there's no limit on it. It lasts as long as you want. You can use it as often as you want. So there's really no reason not to be shapeshifted all of the time. And you can just switch from one form to another. The reverting takes you back to your original form, but then you can use a magic action and then take on a new form. And this is very similar to the Changeling that you saw in Monsters of the Multiverse, but they did get one improvement, and that is, well shapeshifted with this trait, you have advantage on charisma checks. That is new. The old version did not have that. And considering that shapeshifter is an unlimited feature and has no duration, I'd say it's about as good as having advantage on charisma checks all the time, which is good, right? If I was going to make a charisma-based character, then getting advantage on the checks that I'm probably already decent at would be really nice. So I think that's a nice update. And the original Changeling was a decent species. I don't think it was one of the more powerful ones, but it certainly wasn't weak. So getting a little bit of a boost, I think is nice. Then we have the Kalashtar. So the last time we saw the Kalashtar was in the previous Eberron book, which was Rising from the Last War, I believe. That was a long time ago. And they didn't get updated when they did Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, so it has been a while since we've seen the Kalashtar. So they actually have more changes than any of the other species in this book. So here are their traits. Creature type, aberration, and I believe they were humanoid before, so that is an update. Size medium, speed 30 feet, and you have the following special traits. So you have dual mind, you have advantage on wisdom and charisma saving throws. Mental discipline, you have resistance to psychic damage. Mind link, you have telepathy with a range in feet equal to 10 times your level. When you're using this trait to speak telepathically to a creature, you can take a magic action to give that creature the ability to speak telepathically with you for an hour, or until you take another magic action to end the effect. And severed from dreams, you can't be the target of a dream spell. In addition, when you finish a long rest, you gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. This proficiency lasts until you finish another long rest. Few different things here. Like I said, the aberration is new. Advantage on the charisma saves is new. It used to just be the wisdom saves. Now, charisma saves are not as common as wisdom saving throws, but still, any saving throw advantage is good. And Mind Link, there's a little change there as well. It used to be when you gave another creature the ability to speak telepathically with you for an hour, if you had given that ability to anybody else, it would disappear. that is no longer the case. So if you were to do telepathy with one member of your party and establish that link, and then another member of your party and establish that link, I guess you would have both links active, which you wouldn't have been able to do before. And finally, Severed from Dreams now gives you a skill proficiency of your choice. That is new as well, which is good because the original one, you can't be the target of a dream spell, is a pretty useless feature. So giving you a skill proficiency and a floating skill proficiency, I think, is a nice way to make that into a decent ribbon. So that is the Kalashtar. Now we're going to go into the one new species. It's not super new. It doesn't feel super new when we go through what it does. But essentially, they're half-elves. All right, so people who are upset that half-elves are gone, they're back. They're just not called half-elves anymore. They're called Khoravar. At least in Eberron they are. But they don't look as much like a half-elf to me as they look maybe like a high-elf. They have the creature type of humanoid. They can be medium or small. Their speed is 30 feet. And then this should sound familiar. We have dark vision, range of 60 feet, like an elf. Fey ancestry, advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charm condition, like an elf. Fey gift, you know the friend's cantrip, and whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace this cantrip with a different cantrip from the cleric, druid, or wizard spell list. Intelligence, wisdom, or charisma is your spellcasting ability for the spell when you have this trait. And this is very similar to what the high elf gets, except the high elf is limited to wizard cantrips only. So the Khoravar can choose wizard, which they might anyway, because wizards have probably a better spell list or cantrip list than those other two. Certainly it's bigger, but cleric and druid are now options as well, and there might be some things you want from those. Maybe you want the guidance cantrip, for example, or maybe you want to be able to do radiant damage, so you take Starry Wisp. So there's some reasons why you might choose those. So it's a little bit better than just having wizard. Then we have lethargy, resilience. When you fail a saving throw to avoid or end the unconscious condition, you can succeed instead. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish 1d4 long rest. So it's like a legendary resistance against the unconscious condition. I will say, I don't think you make a whole lot of saves to avoid the unconscious condition. I mean, maybe you got hit with a sleep spell. Maybe it's one of those poisons that can make you unconscious. So it's not useless, but I think in a lot of cases, it's not going to come up. Certainly the 1d4 long rests, it's not that big a deal. It could have been one long rest. I don't see you needing this day after day after day. But if you play a campaign, I wouldn't be surprised if you need it once. So it's not great, but it's a ribbon. When you need it, it'll be fantastic. But I'm just saying you probably aren't going to need it very often. And you gain skill proficiency in one skill or with one tool of your choice. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace it with another skill or tool proficiency. And yeah, like I said, it reminds me of the High Elf. It's reminiscent of it. We don't have a lot of like super unique features here. They're all reminiscent of features we see with other species. So it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's decently balanced, but I can't say I'm super excited by it. Then we have the Shifter. So the Shifter we also saw in the last Eberron book, and we saw it as well in Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. So it's actually been updated. This is the second time it's been updated, though it's not updated at all. The Shifter traits here are the same as the ones in Monsters of the Multiverse, so I'll save you the time looking. If you look at your Shifter in Monsters of the Multiverse, it has the same mechanics as this one. For those of you unfamiliar with it, I'll just go through them quickly. The Shifter is okay, but yeah, I don't really love it. Anyway, creature type is humanoid, size is medium or small, speed is 30 feet. By the way, Shifters are like, they're descended from were creatures, so they're like a little bit of a were creature. You have bestial instincts, channeling your beast within. You gain proficiency in one of the following skills of your choice: acrobatics, athletics, intimidation, or survival. Dark vision of 60 feet. And as a bonus action, you can shapeshift into a more bestial appearance. The transformation lasts for 1 minute or until you revert to your normal appearance as a bonus action. When you shift, you gain temporary hit points equal to 2 times your proficiency bonus. You can shift a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Whenever you shift, you gain the benefit of one of the following options you choose. And you can choose from Beast Hide. You gain 1d6 temporary hit points. While shifted, you have a +1 bonus to your armor class. And notice it says additional, so I think that's on top of the 2 times proficiency bonus that you get. Then we have Long Tooth. It says when you shift and as a bonus action on other turns while shifted, you can use your elongated fangs to make an unarmed strike. If you hit with this unarmed strike and deal damage, you can deal piercing damage equal to a d6 plus your strength modifier. And Swift Stride. While you are shifted, your speed increases by 10 feet. Additionally, you can move up to 10 feet as a reaction when a creature ends its turn within 5 feet of you. This reactive movement doesn't provoke opportunity attack action. And Wild Hunt. Well shifted, you have advantage on wisdom checks. Additionally, no creature within 30 feet of you can have advantage on an attack roll against you unless you have the incapacitated condition. And the reason I don't love the shifter is I find shifting very limited. The duration is very, very low, like it's one combat, and it's a bonus action to shift, and you don't have a lot of uses. And the rest of the time, you got what? A skill and dark vision. And I just think that if it's going to be that limited, these options need to be a little more dramatic, is my thought. It's not a terrible species, but I am surprised they didn't improve it at all. I would have liked to have seen maybe have the shifting last for 10 minutes or something like that, or more uses, give them back one after a short rest in addition to all of them back after a long rest. They needed something, and they didn't get it, so I thought that was unfortunate. I have no desire to jump and play a shifter anytime soon. And then the Warforged. And Warforged we haven't seen since Rising from the Last War, and it was kind of infamously missing from Monsters of the Multiverse because Warforged is very popular. I'd say of all the species in Eberron, the one I hear people most excited about is definitely the Warforged pretty much all the time. So let's see what they updated because it's been a long time. So first off, creature type construct, that's new. The old one was a humanoid, believe it or not. I think there was just this idea that, all species had to be humanoids originally. And the Warforged is probably the first one where it kind of raised eyebrows, like, really? It's a humanoid? And so construct just makes sense, probably always should have been one. And our size, we can be medium or small. Speed is 30 feet. And we get the following things. And the formatting of these is very different than the original, but there's a lot of the same stuff. So first we have Construct Resilience. You have resistance to poison damage. You also have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the poison condition. Integrated Protection. You gain a +1 bonus to armor class. In addition, the armor you have donned can't be removed against your will while you're still alive. Sentry's Rest. You don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. And you can finish a long rest in 6 hours if you spend those hours in an inactive, motionless state. During this time, you appear inert but remain conscious. Specialized Design, you gain 1 skill proficiency and 1 tool proficiency of your choice. And Tireless, you don't gain exhaustion levels from dehydration, malnutrition, or suffocation. And yeah, like I said, the formatting of those is all different, but as I went through, I started lining them up one after the other, and it's mostly the same stuff. The only real differences to the Warforged are you can be small now. You couldn't be small before. You had to be medium. And the bit about integrated protection, where it says, in addition, armor you have donned can't be removed against your will while you're alive. It used to talk about, integrating the armor into your body, and it took an hour. And I think it took an hour to remove it as well. And they got rid of that. So the regular time for donning and doffing will apply instead of that 1 hour. I don't think that makes much difference. I don't see people changing their armor very often. So I think in practice, the Warforged is going to feel exactly the same as it did before, except maybe you're a small Warforged, which doesn't make a big mechanical difference. So really not dramatic changes to the Warforged. the shifter, no changes at all. The Khoravar is not a particularly unique species. It's very similar to elves, I would say. The Changeling, though, does get that advantage on charisma checks, which I think is nice, so I think they got a nice little boost. The Kalashtar was probably the big winner. It got a bunch of new stuff. It got advantage on charisma saves. It got two-way communication with multiple creatures with Mind Link, and it gets a new skill proficiency. And it wasn't a bad species before, so I think that's a nice boost for it. So I might want to give them a try at some point. But anyways, that's the new species. Like I said, a quicker video. Thanks everyone for watching, and until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks everybody. Talk to you soon.